Hey everyone. So, I want to do something a little different tonight because I feel like this could be a really interesting or fun thing. And what we're going to do is talk about bad therapy takes. Now, many people have been to therapy and had really positive experiences. There are people who've been to therapy and genuinely gotten really amazing things out of it. But occasionally you either have a therapist who doesn't fit with you or a therapist that just says some dumb shit. This can be in the fact of them talking about things they don't really know, or this could be in the fact of them dealing with a particular, let's say, demographic that they are not the most familiar with, right? And so I wanted to, at some level, talk about this because I think that it's really important. The reason for this is that I think talking about this stuff out loud lets us look for warning signs and the like, so that in a lot of ways, if you start to notice these things, you don't necessarily continue interacting with it. That is to say no negative towards, say, like any specific therapist. But that is to say that in some ways this needs to be discussed. So I'm looking through. I do not know where that tweet went. Give me a second.
So we put out questions both on Twitter and on our Discord. So we'll be reading from both places.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the Twitter ones because those are shorter. Okay. So the problem is that these things are posted. I don't really have any way to show them to you guys without putting in the screen. Please do not go harass or bother anyone, okay? It's unfortunately how we got to do things. So, Be Gay and Grow Crops said, went to a therapist in training because my university, I think that's university insurance, covered only university mental health programs and doctors on campus. Had someone who insisted that sensory projecting was processing, excuse me, thank you, was me being afraid of things like paper. I went in to discuss intrusive thoughts. He said I should focus on the intrusive thoughts, which horrified me and made me feel awful whenever I had them. He insisted that I needed to focus more on these obsessive thoughts. I also reported compulsive behavior like checking locks, yada yada. Yeah, so when you're dealing with somebody who has a lot of anxiety, and especially somebody who's dealing with what sounds like overly compulsive actions or urges, the thing you don't tell them is to focus. Now, I will make one accommodation there, one tiny little asterisk. And that is, if you are someone who is trained in mindfulness as a therapeutic intervention, mindfulness can be helpful to move away from obsessive thoughts and move away from compulsive behavior that comes from those obsessive thoughts. The way that works is you give someone something to focus on. Could be a mantra, could be a phrase, could be the name of their favorite person, doesn't fucking matter. But you give someone some form of mindfulness so that they can pull their mind off it. And as they practice this every day, especially in moments where they're not feeling compulsive or they're not feeling particularly upset, they learn that trick to pull their mind away from these things. But to tell someone to focus exclusively on intrusive thoughts is insanity. Like, this leads to demonstrable harm. Does that make sense, people? Like, does that track? Do you have any thoughts on this one?
No, you covered it.
Okay. This fine person said, my last therapist told me that if I just stop having dysphoric thoughts, my dysphoria would go away.
Oh.
What?
Just stop having problems. Laughing my ass off. That'll be $350. Oh God. Oh, sorry. The comment also helped there, but like.
Yeah. The person would leave them. But yeah, that's fantastic. Let's be very clear here. If a therapist ever says this, don't even talk. Don't even do it. Just stand up and walk out.
Yeah.
If anyone ever tells you your dysphoria is in any way, shape, or form something you can just stop, just leave. Dysphoria doesn't work that way. Dysphoria is something that is constant. You can attribute it to things that create depression, anxiety, intrusive thoughts. Hell, dissociation, derealization, depersonalization. There's a number of things people experience because of dysphoria. To say just stop having those thoughts. Like, this feels like the CBT answer. And don't get me wrong, CBT has its uses, blah, 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 but also it tends to get overly pushed. And the fact is, you can't just end these thoughts. In fact, I would argue you can't actually get rid of thoughts. You have to replace them with something. For somebody to be able to get away from an intrusive thought or dysphoric thoughts, you have to either replace them with something or you have to address why the thought's coming up, because there could be information there that needs to work a thing out, if that makes sense. You want to read that next one?
Yeah, that first one there. Okay. Not specifically something a therapist I had, but it took me so long in the past getting a therapist. Once they heard I had autism, they would basically say outright they couldn't see me due to autism not being their specialty.
Yep.
Yeah, about that.
So here's the thing. I will say this. Let me explain this so you all understand that there is a grain of truth here, but I don't think that's what this person's pointing at. So at least in my code of ethics, one of the things they recently gave us is one tiny loophole as far as dealing with folks. Normally, before the code change in 2014, counselors would, generally speaking, have the ability to transfer someone out just because they had a values difference with them. So, for example, if you're a Christian therapist and you have to work with a trans person, you could just kick them out of your office because you didn't want to work with trans people. The problem with this is that it is demonstrably harmful. Sometimes people spend so much energy trying to find a therapist, so much courage, that to be suddenly denied by one or rejected can throw them under the bus for years. Right? However, if you are not familiar with a particular experience or a particular disorder, it is appropriate after 2014 to transfer that person out if it's a competence issue. After 2014, they changed the rules. You can't just transfer someone out. This was because of a very famous case in the Midwest about a girl choosing not to work with a gay man, and this going to a large level and a huge series of lawsuits. Basically, the code changed in 2014 to say that you have to work with those people. Your values don't matter. Shut up. You're a therapist. But if you have a competence issue that you're not familiar with a thing, that's fine. In this case, what I would argue is just because autism isn't your specialty, it doesn't mean that makes so much sense, Gayfesh. Millennials and fucking Zoomers are so fucked on phone calls. Jesus Christ, I hate phone calls.
And I gotta be honest, even phone calls for like trying to find therapists are really, really hard because most of the time you get answering machines or they don't call back. Like, God, it makes it real rough to find somebody when you're like, shit, I've got to make this phone call, and also this phone call probably won't work. That's my therapy take. There we go.
Yeah.
So,
next person. I told my therapist, I assume, about my history with restrictive eating disorders. She asked how low my weight had gotten, and when I said I'd never been underweight, she waved her hand dismissively and said that it was nothing to worry about. Upside down smiley. What? I mean, you still look, you're not like starving, so why is this a problem? Like, what the fuck? Like, let's be clear. Eating disorders are hard. I don't specialize in them because even though there is an overlap with trans folks, I do find them really hard to understand. They are a thing for me that's difficult. Now, granted, if someone really wants to work with me and they're trans and they have an eating disorder, I'm going to do my fucking best. But for someone to basically look at you and go like, well, you've never gotten underweight, it's not a thing. that's the point. If they haven't gotten underweight, then clearly something's working for them. Maybe you should talk about that. Maybe that should be a thing to work on. Maybe that should be something to look, explore, right? Just a thought. From our dear friend of the channel, Beyond Safe Words. And let's not forget the co-owner of the practice I talked about on stream, who told me LGBTQ are only happy for 2 years and then Godwin's lawed me. Oh, that's right. It was the conservative person who told them that being LGBT goes against their religion and thus is bad. If you want to know more about that story, go watch that video. The Unsafe Words is great, and that video was 18 years or older, so it got kind of fucked. Yeah, eating disorders are not fine. They can easily lead to harm. They can easily lead to long-term problems. Like, no, whoever the person was for this is fucking clown. The therapist, obviously, not the person. You want to read that one? Right there.
Yeah. New therapist at first session looked over my file and then suggested I get diagnosed with autism. No preamble, no small talk, no nothing. Literally first thing she said after inviting me inside. She turned out to be right, but damn, way to make me feel like a subject.
So, to all of those therapists out there that are psychic, apparently, and don't worry, there's been times where people have walked in and I've kind of had a pretty good idea what was going on from the get-go. Then, oh, holy shit, thank you for the donation, Grim. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You need to lead them there. Like, this is more for the therapists who are listening, but essentially, like, you can't just be like, it's borderline. Like, one, you don't know that for sure, and two, you can't just rush with that. Now, if you want to put something down like that as your initial diagnosis, you better damn well fucking support it somehow. But the fact is you can't just rush to that. Like, sometimes people need time to gel with that idea. Sometimes they have a need to figure out in some way, shape, or form how to do the thing.
Or even just what that means for them, right?
Thank you for the information, Tiamat. Just to say that, they still paid me.
That is about halfway to a hot chocolate. I'll accept it. So,
I mean, as long as it's nothing that's shitty, Yeah, that's just, you have to lead people there. If you really feel strongly about it, that's great. But you have to be clear. Next person. You need to forgive your father for the abuse he did and try to reconnect with him. He is your father, after all. They really did say this to a CSA victim. By the way, trigger warning for all sorts of shit. I think I forgot to do that at the beginning because I'm a derp.
We'll add one to the start of the video for sure.
Yeah. But really, like...
I hate these takes. Can I tell you about how many times... I don't think I ever had I forgot about that time with the therapist. No, I've had a number of people just in general tell me that. And not that I'm child sexual assault wasn't the deal. There's just general abuse in my family, but like, holy fuck, I want to beat these people. Like, that. We need to start hitting the ban hammer.
I'm just gonna hide Discord chat until we get those folks cleaned out. No, Mordecai, we haven't gone over those yet. We're still doing the Twitter side of it. We're gonna be done with those soon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so real quick, the idea that you have to forgive your parents for shit, I've talked about this channel numerous times. The idea that you, by any stretch of the imagination, have to forgive people, or that you have to somehow reconnect with them because of familial ties when they've demonstrably harmed you. No, go fuck yourself. The idea that, like, if a family member has hurt you so significantly that you really, like, you really just can't understand at a clear level, like, why separating from them is a good idea. No, never see a therapist who says this. Never see a therapist who's so tied to their values of family that they, at some level, shape, or form, will refuse to hear that at any point. There are therapists that will do this, mind you. There are therapists who will, by all stretch of the imagination, just say shit like this. Right? Friend of the channel, and also the person that always makes me think of the Subway jingle, Gay Fesh, my homie. My therapist suggested I, an atheist, go to a Christian music conference. When I pointed out that I was in fact an atheist, she was like, "Oh, I thought you were Christian because I celebrated standard American holidays." Wait, what?
How did we? What? Yeah. Jeez. Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
It's
not like these are shared cultural experiences and ways to reconnect with people. And no, it's Subway Gay Fesh. Every time pops into my head. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I just can't. Think. I'm so sorry that happened, Gay Fesh. To all the people that this shit happened to. Holy crap. Game Theorem said, "We don't have anything to share." I believe they're a podcast. We've thought about looking into mental health reasons, but the cost as well as seemingly low likelihood of finding a good one in our very queer, non-friendly area were barriers too prohibitive for us to cross. Here's the thing. Due to COVID, you are in a wonderful current situation, and that is, before COVID, the amount of insurances that would cover actual teletherapy were much lower. Since COVID, teletherapy is the norm. If you want to work with someone on the other side of the state from a particularly progressive place, do it. Please refer to the video we have about how to find a therapist. Mm-hmm. But as far as cost, the thing I would say to that, and we do cover that in the video. Oh, Mordecai, thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, we gotta...
Yeah, it just hasn't popped up for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was really cool. Thank you.
Nice.
I would say look for therapists who work with sliding scales. I would say look for therapists... Look for therapists who have low income clients. A lot of these things are available if you look. A lot of people don't necessarily advertise them for fear that people will just kind of show up. But yeah, telehealth is a thing. Ask for sliding scales. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. None at all. So that's what I would say to that. You want to read that next one? Yeah. Trigger warning for suicidal ideations.
I don't know if this counts, but the first time I ever told anyone about my suicidal ideation was in the doctor's office. Once I entered earnestly as the first step to seek help, as part of the safety protocol, they called the police and had them escort me to the ambulance.
I can't head desk right now because I'm fuck the stream up, but I would if I could. So let me be very clear here. The key phrase here that should tell you that this is fucked up is that one. Suicidal ideation. Lots of people have suicidal ideations. That doesn't mean you fucking try to commit them. One, do they have suicidal ideations along with a plan? Do they have an active history of harming themselves? Have they in any way shown that they want to engage in these? Do they not just have a plan, but have a will and a desire? If this person's just saying they're scared about having ideations and then they immediately slap the cuffs on you, you're not really helping them. Not really. Sorry. All right. You want to read that next one?
Yeah. You want...
Emetophobia. It's the fear of vomiting and anything to do with vomit.
Got it. Quote, you want treatment for emetophobia, huh? Well, you have to know that whatever needs to get out of your stomach will get out regardless of what you want. It can even go through your nose. Anyway, maybe you should try to socialize more. Ask your dad to teach you how to dance. End quote. Whoa, there's a lot there.
Yeah, Gayfesh, that's super true. The only reason you should ever do that is the person's like, I am going to walk out of here and, like, hurt myself immediately. You can't just do that. Because here's the problem. The one time you do that, where you break that trust and you immediately throw them in the irons or call the police, and that person wasn't going to act, you're not only increasing the likelihood of them acting, you're just doing real harm. Can we be really clear here? Like, that's a thing. So emetophobia, my understanding, is the fear of vomiting and anything to do with vomiting. For someone to tell you that, it's just going to get on its own, I mean, it can come out your nose for all it wants, is someone so utterly so utterly stupid, like, whoever that therapist is, avoid them. Yeah, it's like the way suicide is a crime in the US. It's a crime specifically only so that there's a legal reason to bypass police entry rules. Yep, that's fucking true. God, that's so fucking awful. I'm so sorry.
No, that just sounds fucked. Yeah.
And then last on the Twitter ones is, my former therapist told me COVID was lab made so that we are forced to comply so we don't forget how to communicate, and then given AI-controlled sex robots.
What?
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 Wait, I gotta reread that. My former therapist told me COVID was lab-made. Okay, the lab-made theory is really shaky. Anyway, so that we are forced to comply. Again, oh no, they're authoritarians. They are making us wear masks. By passing tests and having bad clinical supervisors. And also not having a lot of life experience, not being part of marginalized groups.
Oh, how do these people even get certified is what Jess was responding to.
Yeah. So we forget how to communicate and then given AI-controlled sex robots. So, first off, I'm going to guess that this person was older, and that's fine. We're not ageist here on TGT. However, clearly this bitch didn't know shit about fucking, like, Discord or the way the internet works as a whole, or the way that, like, most young people have been doing better over the course of the pandemic than older folks, because we have things like Twitter, Discord, forums. Yeah, I'll see if I can't find it.
I just like this AI-controlled sex robots part. I'm not sure how that, like, relates to any of this.
I would like to say, for the record, I welcome our sex robot allies. I would be curious about how automation affects someone like Merrick, but I think that's more of a philosophical discussion. Where the fuck are all the sex robots? Right. We have this person. AMAB joined a support group. I hadn't been on phone with them for 2 minutes when I heard, how glad we are to have a male perspective. It's just so different. I was later made the hunter while the rest of the group were gatherers in some absurd hypothetical. Never asked pronouns. What the fuck? Can we go back to the sex robot one? This one's sadder.
Yeah, I'm just shaky here, like, in empathy and sympathy here for me, because, like, oh geez, that's not fun.
This one was pretty minor because I happen to be cis, but I legit just wanted the LPC to fuck off with needless gendering. She had no idea what my experiences were, so why assume they would be valuable or different from anyone? It was entirely gender driven. I didn't exist. No, that's a thing. That's a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Let's see, is it in here? Oh, here you are, Chris, or Chris? I'm just gonna say Chris. It's easier, I'm sorry. In my second session with a therapist, she handed me a photocopy of the DSM entry for OCD and had me read it aloud to her. I also had to explain Latino versus Hispanic to her. Okay. She assumed I used the word Latino because I grew up in New York, where all the Puerto Ricans are. Chris. Okay, I thought so, but I'm ADHD. I'm sorry. It's hard. Saying things is hard. What? Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Yeah, weird champ. Real quick, I don't know if anyone see this on the side. COVID-19 vaccines do not violate the World War II era Nuremberg Code. I'm not even touching that. Seriously, fuck off, Twitter. But yeah, no, I
couldn't imagine making somebody read the DSM like in session. Like just like
So here's the thing. I have used the DSM in session. However, that's been with going through and trying to get an idea of where the person's experiences are. Yeah, it felt incredibly easy. Like I went through point by point, criteria by criteria with the client to make sure we had it. And apparently this person was like, here's a page, read it yourself. Yeah, like this is just, this person lost their soul somewhere down the line in the job.
It feels like picking on some kid to read like aloud from the book in class, right? Like I get going through with a counselor. That makes absolute sense if you're like, so hey, this is what we're looking at, right? Like this is, the potential stuff, or this is, what the thing says. But like, just go stand up there and read in front of the class. Just like, what?
People make me want to scream. Many, many years ago, I was apprehensive about taking meds and artificial chemicals knocking around my brain. An irrational fear, but a fear understandable. The doctor said something about the effects. Well, the chemicals come from the ground, yes, and where does the ground come from? From God. So the medicine is from God. It didn't make me less apprehensive.
Oh, no. Oh.
So the ground actually comes from fusion, spitting out shit.
I think I went through The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. There's a character that's, getting back into therapy in about the middle of the book. And as Mikey's talking with his therapist, there's actually a really good page where she explains, like, no, really, like, it's okay to take meds. Like, this is a tool that's going to help you. It's a good tool. Like, there's better ways to explain this.
Gayfesh, that is super fucking, that super fucking makes sense. I mean, I would never expect insane troll logic from a therapist, right? What the fuck? Technically more of a psychiatric thing, but I was diagnosed with ADD and then undiagnosed by a different psychiatrist for being too high functioning to have ADD. What?
No, that shit happens. I've definitely heard stories, people going back and forth on stuff from like some of the other servers that I'm in, where like somebody will discount ADHD, somebody else will like say it's a thing. Like, yeah, I have seen some really messy shit with that one.
Holy shit. Okay, well, fair enough. Let's get to Discord. Do you want to bring up the bad therapist stories on your phone, or maybe we can bring it up on a tablet? So we can keep stream up, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
While I get this up, I think I've got another one in there. But the bad therapist story that this reminded me of that I forgot about.
I think executive dysfunction is a useful term and can be very useful to describe things. But when you're just doing this thing of like, as a gatekeeping, it's super fucked. Yeah, I'm going to need a bubble bath after these stories, right? Holy shit. So Zena's going to bring up your guys' stories. We're going to try to get through all of them, but be warned, we are coming up on 9. So we do have other stories we want to get to. So we're going to try to get through as many of them as possible. If we don't get through all of them, we will do another one of these soon.
Bad therapist stories. Here we go.
All right, let's just start from the top and let's do this.
All right, I was going to say one of mine right now real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Say yours.
So I'm 14. I'm coming into the office. It's like a Catholic social services or something like that. So it's probably already bad. But you know what? Cheap therapy. This lady thought I was the best kid ever because her other client right before me just had bit somebody in the office. But of course, I'm coming in and going, hey, my male parental unit, is throwing stuff down the stairs just when he's angry for the fuck of it. And sure enough, there was no reports, no dealing with that. She could not touch on any of the abuse that was actually happening in my house. And I was like, you suck. Yeah, that was probably the worst one. So, all right, we ready to go with some of these?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I was just looking at something real quick. All right. So pick one. Let's go.
All right. This is long. Oh, crap. Well, we'll do it. All right. My first therapist was mostly just figuratively salivating whenever I told stories of my childhood, with a lot of, oh wow, that's fucked up, eagerly penning things down like this was the best story she's ever heard. It felt like all she wanted was that sweet, sweet gossip. Or to write a paper about me? I don't know. After about 5 sessions with no indication that she had any intention of helping me, I left and didn't visit another therapist for years. That's one story.
Okay, so that first one, no, you did the right thing. I don't have anything more to go with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick thing on that, Very Rona, the thing about if you can focus...
That was a no name.
No, I'm talking about what they said I'm saying what that person said in chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got confused what chats I'm looking at.
Very Rona said, if you can focus on having ADHD for that long, you clearly don't have ADHD. To which I respond with that to, there are kids who are bright enough to be able to coast through school with ADHD because they find it easy enough, so they just are able to do that. This idea that like everybody has to be dysfunctional as ADHD, it makes things harder, to be sure, but the idea that like someone can't be functional, no, that's nonsensical. All right, next part of that person's story.
All right. Another therapist I went to visit was because I was having horrible depression, burnout, imposter syndrome, and anxiety about my PhD and the toxic working environment surrounding that. I didn't know all that at the time. I had to figure that out on my own. All I knew was I feel horrible and my anxiety is making it impossible to continue my PhD. So my therapist said, well, this PhD seems to be bothering you. Why don't you go finish it first, then come back to me to work on your issues?
What?
That was the end of that. Yeah.
That's I don't even know what to say to that other than just like, man.
The way to not handle the problem.
Way to just fucking deflect. What the shit?
All right. So this one's got content warning, sexual assault. A number of years ago, I started telling my therapist at the time that when I was in high school, I was assaulted by a boy at a friend's house while people were sleeping. She said I shouldn't have been sleeping in a house with friends who were boys, and asked what I expected to happen because boys are like that in high school.
I want to rage quit. Like what?
Rape culture is real. Like that. Let's not.
Oh my god, that's so revolting. Ugh.
That's just horrifying coming from like a mental health professional. Like holy fuck. Yeah, literally wanted to toss something. Yeah,
no, that's so rage-inducing. I'm so sorry to whoever posted that. Jesus Christ.
Seriously, if you get therapists like that say that to you, that's also like a walk out of the fucking office. Like that person is going to do more damage to you than anything. Oh god. All right. So this one's from Persephone. I had a psychiatrist who demanded that I leave the room and wash my face when I cried. He asked me to give my whole life story. I don't know what he expected. Jeez, that's weird.
That one didn't even click in my... Wait, were you being punished? Is this like the Handmaid's Tale? What's going on? I'm so confused. You know, honestly, the first thing I thought of, and this is to no disrespect to the person who sent this is the first thing I thought of. That scene in Archer where he has like the fucking tinfoil goose, and he's like, oh, you're so ugly when you cry. Bonk, bonk. And I was just like, it's that, but not as a joke. What the fuck? Oh my god, fuck you. Fuck that. Fuck all. Oh my god. All right, next one. So sorry that shit happened.
This one's got some content warning, self-harm. I think that's most of it. So this one's from Lucy. I went to this psych who asked if I was trans because I wanted attention from girls. He also asked if I was a violent person, and I said no, and he said, well, self-harm is a pretty violent act. He wanted to see my self-harm scars, and he said that even though I said I wasn't suicidal, that my injury could get infected with bacteria and I could die. And he made a comment/inference of him putting me in the psych ward.
Love that for us. Love that for us.
Wow.
God damn. I'm Purple Haze. My suggestion to you is do your research, watch the video about how to find a therapist, and try to find people who genuinely are understanding and listening. And this is what I'll tell you, which I didn't in that other video. If someone says shit to that, like that to you, be like, that was inappropriate. Like, you are still in the power in the session. I don't care what they say. Fucking tell them directly, no. Just, you don't get to treat me that way. It's that simple, right? All right, next one.
All right, Persephone. Oh, yeah. And another therapist while I was hospitalized told me I was acting like a girl and laughed at me for crying.
But you were acting like a girl. How do they identify? I mean, they're they, them, so they are.
And got a cute, like.
Got a cute B. I mean, like, but,
girl,
like,
yeah.
Wait, so, like, you're acting like. So, I will say this as a caveat. There have been times where I've seen people behaving in, like, using socialization behaviors that I would see in the gender they no longer identify as. I have at times pointed that out as a way to point out that I think they're still buying into certain types of negative socialization associated with their assigned gender. I can see a world or a situation where that would be okay. I don't think that's okay. That is just doing some bullshit. Next one.
So no name. Not really that bad, but my therapist once out of the blue recommended one of the 12 rules for life in a session. It threw me in such a loop that I don't remember the context of the rule he talked about. Later I googled him and found his YouTube channel following 3 Jordan Peterson channels and his daughter's channel.
Oh yeah, no. If I find out that if I find out that a therapist I'm working with follows alt-writers, or like Jordan Peterson, who himself is not an alt-writer but seems to lead people to alt-writer conclusions. Yes, we see a Gina. Hi. I'll be really honest, that's fucking insane. Like, that's mega fucking insane. Holy shit. Oh my god, that stuff's crazy. Oh, okay, next.
All right. Mordecai. I fired a therapist because she said the reason she thinks I have an estranged relationship with my father is because I'm the only child that wasn't baptized in a non-denominational church. I had a Catholic baptism. It was hilarious that she made that generalization because it's actually my father that's the Catholic one. My mom was the non-denominational Christian.
Gender roles are real.
Oh god.
Also, does Jordan Peterson even do therapy anymore? I don't know. I don't think so. I genuinely don't think so. I don't know for sure, but I would, considering his touring and the fact that he's like doing other shit now, I don't really think so.
All right, we got a bunch of these. You want me to just kind of?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
All right. I was in a pretty abusive relationship for a while and have been assaulted a number of times over my adult life, but it wasn't something that affected me much for a long time. Shortly after starting to see this one therapist, I mentioned a particularly nasty incident offhandedly, and he basically cried and said it back. Something about the way it happened triggered me so badly, I spent the next 3 years in a continuously unsafe state where I was never okay, and I'm pretty sure he quickly came to dread my appointments with him.
This is taking mirroring to the weirdest fucking place. Like, apparently, like, why would you? I don't even know how to respond to that other than I'm sorry that happened, because there's no reason a therapist would ever do that. There's no like, I can say what I heard you say, or what I believe you're saying is to sort of clarify, but like the idea that like I'm trying to in any way, shape, or form, the idea that you would mirror the back end, and that sounds so fucking harmful. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
that does sound super extreme.
Next.
All right, so we've got Weaver. I had a psych who I wanted to try a different medication because what I was on didn't seem to be helping, just kept telling me that my complaints were a personality problem. And that
Not Jess. Just to be clear.
I thought I said just.
You did, but it sounded weird. Go ahead.
Okay. Were a personality problem, and that changing medication wouldn't help with it. It did when I got a new psych. Goddamn.
Also, yikes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Tiamat, I agree with your interpretation of that last one. That makes sense. I think that the person got triggered and they didn't own it. Which, by the way, if you read Gift of Therapy, there's a really good example in there of that. If you get triggered as a therapist in a session, that doesn't mean you hide it. That doesn't mean you move away from it. You can use that as a better lead into therapy. There have been times where things have negatively impacted me in a therapy session, and I've used that as a way to be able to sort of lead into the client speaking more openly about themselves. You do not have to hide yourself as a therapist in session. You just can't make the session about you, right? So just that side note.
All right, so we got a no-name one. My mom brought me to a bunch of conversion therapists in the past, and while they weren't all aggressive about it, one really took to pressuring me and asking me to doubt so much. Your personality might change. Your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. You've never been in a real heterosexual relationship before. Read not online, etc. Given my issues with arguments, this woman triggered me hard. Thankfully, my mom didn't keep me there because she didn't do Christian enough therapy.
Okay.
Oh, that hurts.
That's fucked. Okay. Yeah, anytime someone brings their religion into therapy, I kind of want to cry a bunch.
Well, this whole is a lot of levels of fucked, right? Not doing Christian enough therapy from the conversion therapist. Oh.
Well,
there's a lot of fuck.
And again, like conversion therapy, let's be very clear, conversion therapy is torture.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, can we all agree on that? Like, conversion therapy is torture? And the fact is that, so this is fucked up. In my actual graduate program, I heard someone say once, if the client wants wants conversion therapy, then you do that. That was said by one of the professors. I want you to understand how fucked this is. This is why I tell you guys to be very, very discerning about your actual therapists. Like, do not accept bullshit. It's okay to be challenged. It's okay to deal with things that aren't easy sometimes. But like, no, there's a clear line here. We're seeing it in these messages. Go to the next one, please.
Lilibra, sure. Not my therapist or psychologist, but the doctor who evaluated whether I was going to be assigned medicine against depression. When he read, there are some content warnings for this. Suicide, particularly that one, yeah. But the doctor when he read the notes that the clinic psychologist had written about my situation, which included that I had made a suicide attempt about a week prior, he replied, "You don't seem to be very suicidal by my impression," and he asked me which method I used, which he already should have known from the psychologist's notes. When asked about my general mood and habits, he didn't seem to take me seriously.
I really hate the invalidating way some therapists talk. Like, that...
This was a doctor. I mean, also when I took my shirt off for him to measure my heartbeat, he touched the scars from self-harm I had accrued the same week as the attempt without asking. I live in Sweden, so might not be able to apply same laws and regulations in the situation.
Yeah, but still, why did the doctor suddenly molest you? I'm so confused.
No, that's just fucked.
Here, can I touch them? It's so weird.
No, that's just inappropriate for a doctor. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not... Like, that's not how you do that, okay? Like, I have to go in for sensitive things, okay? Skin issues, other areas. Like, doctors should be very, very careful, like, very much consent-oriented, making sure that everybody's on board with what's happening. Like, that's not okay. Like, that really, really isn't. All
right, next one.
Name okay. I'm from Europe, so we got Mikey. My first therapist encouraged me to open up before I got properly diagnosed schizospec, and in the middle of talking about some of my beliefs, she stopped me and said, "But you know that's not right. You know you're wrong." And the rest of the session is a total black hole. I've never asked to see her again afterwards.
I feel like some therapists take the idea of challenging someone way too far. Like, instead of just challenging them and like actively being like, have you considered that maybe that way of thinking might have some issues with it? Would you be open to me telling you about that? Notice how I said that?
Mm-hmm.
You can point out flaws in thinking. You can point out distorted thinking without being invalidating or making it a fucking contest. Yeah, the challenge has to lead somewhere, not just be a challenge in and of itself. Yeah, like suddenly you're in a fucking Vosh debate. Like, what the fuck? You came to therapy. Shut up. Next.
Story number 2 here. Content warnings for CSA. Another therapist that I had after I talked.
Continue.
Goddamn. After I talked for the first time about something CSA related that happened when I was a very young kid, asked me if I was letting it affect me, and then I had the option to just pretend it never happened. Then when he didn't get an answer, he asked me if I was sure it was actually traumatic. This is like forehead meets the desk, if that was possible right now.
Like there's obviously the hypotheticals you could go into about like, I one time stubbed my toe and that was traumatic. Like, obviously that we can all come up with ways in which like there are things that could be called traumatic hyperbolically, but like, no, if someone's in a therapy office, the fact of the matter is they say something was traumatic for them. I don't care if it meets the clinical definition of trauma, and I don't give a fuck whether it's really trauma from my personal definition. If they say it's traumatic, I fucking believe them. Like, what?
I gotta be real here. This whole like letting it affect me, right? Like asking you that is just like, oh god, did you like skip that whole chunk of school where you learned about what this shit looks like? Did you? It sounds like it. Alright. So no name. Content warning for sexual assault.
Imagine Amy Vosh as your therapist, right? Jesus Christ, that'd be an aggressive ass such. There's a reason he went into sociology.
Oh god.
Next.
Alright. I told my therapist about my issues having sex and that my ex-boyfriend had coerced me into sex and raped me, and she told me that I should just stop having sex because boys like it when you don't give them sex immediately. I don't know, I just kind of fucked that she glossed over the whole my consent thing / my bisexuality thing.
No, she actively did, and also basically was like, you should play hard to get.
I gotta be honest,
holy shit.
I've done enough trainings. Like, I've like, this stuff just doesn't make sense, and we know it. Like, there's so much data out there. Like, that's not the right thing to do. Like,
what
to
the
say to somebody.
And I get people in my comments telling me that I'm acting inappropriately, and then this shit happens, and these people are like, these people keep their license. Like, what? The injustice. Anyway, continue.
Right?
I try to help people with a YouTube channel, and I'm the devil, but these people are fucking practicing there, being like, was that really trauma? Have you tried just playing hard to get? Like,
oh my god.
Yeah, Mordecai, I don't blame you. Don't worry, the stuff after this is at least more tolerable. We're getting through it. Go.
We're almost to the end. This will definitely be like an ice cream after stream thing, guys. Or for folks, friends, girls,
Justice. Yeah.
Non-binary pals, all of y'all. There we go. So where was I? I am here. So this is a no name. I told a former therapist about a former close friend who thought I liked her, which I let the therapist know time and time again that I never had any romantic feelings for her. She was just crazy. And when I brought her up again a few sessions after that, they said, "Who? Your girlfriend?" And I got triggered and got a little pissed. But it was their reaction that made me feel worse. They got all defensive, saying, "Well, I don't know everything." They said it with such an agitated tone. I know we're not all perfect, but come on. And I stopped seeing them for other things.
Holy shit. Okay. I feel like these therapists don't understand what validating is. Like, it just seems like a lot of, like, invalidation. Like, you use different techniques with different people. That's true. But this, oh my god, this is so fucked. Like, I don't even know where to begin on that one. It's just like, What?
I feel like that was a really weird response for, like, even if you did get the information, like, mixed up, like, fine. Like, I know sometimes people's lives are complicated, right? But, like, I feel like responding, like, that way is really weird, or just, like, you could just ask for a refresher, like, hey, can you remind me about, let's make sure that we're on the same page? I mean, I feel like there's just better ways to handle that. Alright, so I got another no-name one. My mom used to be pretty shitty and overbearing and demanded physical affection that I wasn't comfortable with. I'm autistic, so I'm averse to a lot of touch. At one session of family therapy, my mom essentially blamed me not hugging her and basically acting as her therapist from the time I was 7 for her mental issues, and my therapist essentially spent the whole time telling me all these things about how it's my responsibility to make my mom happy and my boundaries were selfish. I was 14 at the time.
Please read that one more to me, because my brain stopped midway and I don't even know how to just reread it, please.
Okay. My mom used to be. Also, I'm gonna try and add in. There's periods. Okay. So, my mom used to be pretty shitty and overbearing and demanded physical affection that I wasn't comfortable with. I'm autistic, so I'm averse to a lot of touch. At one session of family therapy, my mom essentially blamed me for not hugging her and basically acting as her therapist from the time I was 7 for her mental health issues. And my therapist essentially spent the whole time telling me all these things about how it's my responsibility to make my mom happy and my boundaries were selfish. I was 14 at the time.
What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, Ashe, that's exactly what's going on. Like, your mom's feelings matter more, and you're like, first off, no therapist worth their salt would ever tell you it's your job to take care of your parent. That is not a direction of power or care that happens in that way. Like, you can want to care for your parents, you can want to love them, you can want to be there for them because they're your fucking parents, and if you have a good relationship with them, great. But yeah, it's inverted responsibility, like Tiamat just said. It's not, like, what?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Also, kids don't have to hug or touch people. Like, they don't have to.
Didn't someone get upset by that recently? Mark Walsh got butthurt because, like, kids should get the ability to give consent of whether they want hugs and kisses from relatives. Like,
I mean, this is a large ongoing thing that I see from a lot of, like, parenting stuff. No, like, I've got a family member who's not big on touch. Sometimes they're in the mood for it. Sometimes they're in the mood for a hug. Sometimes they're not. Fine. But, like, no, forcing kids to hug people absolutely starts eroding, like, that sense of what consent should actually be, and it can really fuck you up later in life.
Yeah, no, I remember Gay Fesh. I remember that Demon Mama video. I was going to cover it, and then she did, and I was like, that's fine. All right, so is that everybody?
We got 2 more?
All right, let's finish those up, and we can get done with this segment.
All right, so Jess knows this one. Because this is one of mine. So one therapist was visibly scared of me when I came in the office, and I'm not entirely sure why. It seemed like she wasn't sure how to deal with someone being direct. Also, all of her responses were either, how does that make you feel, or what does that say about you?
Were they newly out of fucking graduate school?
No, this was the one that got suggested when I was living with the other apartment.
That was garbage.
This was that therapist.
That's the... No, you're right. That person was definitely not out of graduate school. No, that's fair.
They were a supervisor and everything, and, like...
Well, how did that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel really crappy.
Yeah, right.
Because they didn't actually, like, address anything I was bringing up in therapy in the session.
All right. Next one. Right. We gotta find our way out of this segment.
We do. All right. So next one. Oh, I guess I have another one that I don't know if it's a bad take or not, but I went to a different psych about my depression and stuff, and I was telling him I was on HRT, and he was like, I don't want to know about that. I want to know about the meds I prescribed, but it's like IDK. I feel like it is important to talk about, but they didn't seem to think so.
Wait, no, they should actually want to know about HRT, especially if you're taking feminizing hormones. Like, again, feminizing or masculinizing hormones can affect emotional state. Like, this is anecdotally true for most trans people. There is anecdotal evidence from multiple gender therapists I've worked with where there's a pretty clear understanding that some trans people will experience definite changes in emotions. I know I have.
And a couple of people, not a very, very small percentage,
There's some people
can experience very extreme shifts that may be, really rough. That can happen too. Like this.
True, Tiamat. No, they're integrated systems, and the fact is like, again, the best way it was described to me was trans women, when they start HRT, will notice over time that their emotions will become more to the surface. They may notice that their emotions are more accessible. Trans men, on the other hand, may experience their emotions become a little bit more harder to interpret or a little bit more backgrounded.
I feel them a little bit like more inside my chest, whereas before they would be like really loud and feel like kind of everywhere.
This is why when we talk about gender as a social construct, it is a social construct, but there seems to be some, at least a couple, biological aspects that do seem to inform that construct. Now, how do you parse that? Which came first, chicken or egg? I don't know. But I do think it's important to talk about those things. And yes, if you're bipolar, you should absolutely know what hormones you're taking. That should absolutely be known because, one, there may be a conflict with your psychiatric meds. Two, they absolutely could affect things. Yep, that's true. I used to cry often. My tear ducts have been dry since I was 4 months on T. Yeah, right? Like it just, this is something anecdotally true. It's like progesterone for trans women. Like,
well, in PMDD, birth control, birth control in general, right? Any of the things those can also like have effects and change shit. And like, no, that is going to play into your overall, body system. Yeah, birth control fucks me up. Yeah, it's fucked. I've tried 3 different times for reasons in it. My body does not tolerate birth control for a lot of reasons either. Yeah. Birth controls and IUDs can make people have very strong psychological reactions. Yes, there is definitely chances that can happen. It's not everybody, but there's definitely a risk there. So, all right.
All right. So with that said, let's end this here. I just want to say to everybody who shared, thank you so much that you shared. And I hope I made sure to get everyone's names either right or make sure I didn't say them if I wasn't supposed to. And I just want to really appreciate everyone being open and talking about this stuff. I want everyone to take from this lesson that, like, therapists don't have to be as bad as, say, like, your Sasha Yads or your Jordan Petersons or stuff like that. Sometimes they can just be people who are very misinformed or who get triggered by something you say or any nonsense like this. I think it's good to call that shit out. I think it's good to push back on that stuff. And
absolutely use your voice and say no. Say if something's inappropriate. Like, this is your therapy. You are the most important person in your own therapy. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So with that said, we're going to end this segment here. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to ring the bell. Make sure to donate, streamlabs.com/transgirltherapist/tip. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/transgirltherapist. Thank you so much, and stream will continue, but this VOD ends. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also ring the bell if you want to be notified of our videos. If you want to help the channel, you can donate at streamlabs.com/transgirltherapist/tip. You also can become a patron at patreon.com/transgirltherapist. For as low as $3, you can support our channel. Thanks for watching.